everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Genre Equality Podcast on the Genre Equality channel. I'm Hidzir.
I'm Isa.
I'm Hadi. Guys, we
Uh,
practice
yes, those are Hadi and Isa. Not necessarily in that order. You
Mhm.
can match your voices to their names
Exactly.
later on. There's just a little in joke because we keep messing up our intros. We've forgotten the order to go in.
Mhm.
But it's Hidzir, it's Isa, it's Hadi. We are all here. The gang is all back. It's a 3-part panelist once again.
For a while now.
It's been for a while now. I mean, Hadi did miss one of the
I did.
recordings.
I did, yeah.
Unfortunately, you missed our review of Severance. We actually never did get your rating on Severance.
10
Hadi.
out of 10.
For official consensus reasons, it's 10 out of 10, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because the 10 out of 10s that I give individually are not consensus.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you need at least 2 of the 3 to make it a legit fucking S tier show,
Yeah.
of which Severance is.
It is definitely.
I know. We aren't here to talk about Severance though. There's so much to talk about this month. Summer season is in full swing, which means San Diego Comic Con is back for its first non-COVID live events over in San Diego, and we'll talk about some of the highlights, trailers, news that popped up from SDCC over the past few weeks. Plus, we'll talk about all the big blockbusters like Thor: Love and Thunder. Over on the TV side, we got Miss Marvel that just recently wrapped up, The Boys, which just recently wrapped up, and the Orville season 3, which is in the midst of wrapping up. Just 2 more episodes left as of this recording. Plus, I'll talk about some of the indie stuff that some of my co-hosts have not seen yet. Like Crimes of the Future, The Witch 2, Solar Opposite season 3, and so on and so forth. Isa will also be delving into Resident Evil and the Sea Beast. So yeah, I mean, lots to talk about here. Let's begin though with a bit of news lah, like a bit of we haven't covered Comic Con news in so long because Comic Cons have been gone for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see all those big panels back, huge crowds in Hall H over in San Diego. A lot of big stuff was announced, man. Lots of big stuff was announced. But let's not get into the Marvel stuff first because that's clearly the highlight from the last day of Comic Con. Let's get into some of the bits and pieces that caught my eye. Firstly, is something that concerns Hadi and Isa because it's not my forte, but the first ever Dungeons and Dragons movie. Second ever Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's out. It's called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. The trailer debuted at SDCC.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of the trailer. It's Paramount Pictures, it's Hasbro Entertainment.
Yeah.
It looks like an action-packed heist movie with a star-studded cast. Do you guys have any thoughts as our resident Dungeons and Dragons experts here? Yeah.
What do you think, Hadi? What are your initial thoughts?
First of all, Chris Pine playing a bard.
I mean,
Enough said.
Yeah, sure, right? Like it's for me, especially when I run games, like it's a given that all your characters are hot, right? And Chris Pine as a bard totally makes sense. We will see if he tries to seduce any dragons, but
I hope so.
hopefully, fingers crossed. Outside of that, any thoughts, hopes, wishes, prayers?
I mean, okay, first of all, if you remember the first movie, the one with Jeremy Irons.
Yes.
Just saying, that was a clusterfuck.
Oh yeah.
But like in a weird way, it is sentimental as well. Like it's those kind of like straight to DVD kind of movies, even though it was released in theaters lah. But that was the quality of it lah. So it's never been a good D&D movie ever. This does bring some panache and some quality to it, right? With the cast and all that. I mean, come on, the cast. Hugh Grant as a rogue, right? John Page, I can't pronounce Reggae. How you pronounce his name?
The Bridgerton fella.
Brittany?
So the Bridgerton guy, right? Playing a paladin, And obviously Michelle Rodriguez will be a barbarian. Like that just makes sense. So I mean, like the typecasting of the characters are great.
Yeah.
Right. The monster designs, from what I can see from the trailer, looks epic. Like everything kind of just fits really well. I mean, I don't know what the hell the story is about. I mean, they release some evil and they have to put it back in or something like that.
Yeah.
Sure. But from what I see from this 3-minute trailer, I'm kind of excited for the movie itself. I believe that I mean, they did work with Wizards of the Coast very closely with the storyline as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the setting will be at Baldur's Gate from
Yep.
sorry, not Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep. Sorry.
Yeah. City of
From what
Splendor, baby.
yeah, from what we can see. So hopefully it lives up to expectations. But I'm still holding back, from like expecting too much from this.
Yeah. I'm setting the bar low, right? Given how you put Jeremy Irons in a Dungeons and Dragon movie and still turn out like that. I think the CGI in the trailer looks great.
Mhm.
I do think it is a fairly interesting cast that they're putting together. Like there is some weight behind that, both in terms of like action and acting ability. I'm not sure how great the dialogue is going to be necessarily, and I think one of the things I've always struggled with is that Dungeons and Dragons is such a strange experience to explain to people. Even if you're telling other players who aren't at your table, right, reliving that experience is very, very difficult. I'll be interested to see if they can try and capture just a little bit of the essence of the kind of shenanigans that go on, right? Diving into a GQ is ridiculous.
That was so I was thinking, what was that strategy right there? But then that kind of also is the player agency that happens on tables also. Like the unexpectedness of like, people jumping into a gelatinous cube.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna cause acid damage and you're gonna be you're gonna be stuck in that for a while,
Yeah.
So that's an interesting twist. Like I hope they do play on that player agency thing lah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'm not gonna get my expectations high. I have heard there will be numerous kind of cameo appearances from CR peeps, from D20 peeps, and stuff like that.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I'm super interested to see where they show up, if they do show up. I'm super interested to see how it kind of goes down. I mean, like thanks to Stranger Things, there has been a resurgence of interest in Dungeons and Dragons. So I think the release of this film is well timed, to say the least. But we'll see if it garners any fans. I'm curious, but I'm definitely going to the cinema to check it out. And Hadi and I will definitely be reviewing this on Genre Equality
100%.
sometime down the line.
In 2023. Yeah. Over in the live panel, the panelists were very upbeat over the success of this Dungeons and Dragons film, particularly because they quite admit that lots of people the reason this was possible is because Critical Role is out there and has made Dungeons and Dragons the streaming Twitch kind of hit that it is, for live role playing, and of course, as you mentioned, Stranger Things and all that. So it's brought D&D back into the limelight. Eager to see how it fares in the box office and whether or not it is good, which remains to be seen next year. Other little bits of highlights from SCCC 2022, of course, is Avatar: The Last Airbender will be getting an animated movie featuring Aang and the original crew and the original voice cast coming back for a 2-hour film on Netflix. This is distinct. This is separate from the live action adaptation.
Exactly.
This is a continuation of Avatar: The Last Airbender set after the TV show, but several years before Legend of Korra. It follows Aang and his friends as young adults here. Any thoughts about this?
Wow. The creators are the same guys, right?
Yes.
Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko are not involved in this. Yes, they walked away from the Avatar franchise. They quit but they quit because of the live action Netflix TV show. But because of that, they don't get to work on this either.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, right? To see how that's gonna work out. Like, I've expressed skepticism really about the live action one, but if they're gonna do another animated one, and I mean, just from like the couple of like artworks that we've seen so far, it looks good. But honestly, so much of the heart and soul of that had to do with the showrunners, right?
Exactly.
And the entire kind of vision and the kind of like just the general direction and vibe that they have kept consistent throughout so many seasons of Avatar, and then later on in Korra as well. So it looks good. I mean, we don't have that much information yet, so we'll see, I guess. When that comes out, I will watch it, but whether or not I'll like it is a different thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, that one, without the showrunners, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, look at The Last Airbender.
Yep.
Oh, God.
I mean,
We don't
Right.
mention that here. That's like
Exactly.
taboo.
So like
M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah, and then with all the Netflix controversy and all that, I'm not very confident on it lah. But yeah, I won't say anything maybe until it comes out, and then we will judge when it comes out lah.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I don't really have much to say about the DC panels. There's the Black Adam trailer.
Yeah. Cool.
They skirted around the Ezra Miller issue quite well. And everything else. I generally am not that excited for DCEU's upcoming lineup. If you are, no diss to you.
Yeah, sure.
I'm happy about that. I just don't have much to say about it.
For me, I'm a huge fan of The Rock. I watch everything that The Rock is in, so
Yep.
I'm excited for Black Adam lah.
Yeah, and whenever Flashpoint comes out, it should be interesting. I know Michael Keaton is in it, so that's a highlight. But Ezra Miller, is, you don't know what's gonna happen in this film.
It can go either way.
It can go either way. Okay, before we delve into the Marvel Cinematic Universe panel, let's go adjacent to it. There was a separate panel for Marvel Animation, not Cinematic Universe, but Marvel Animation. Particularly, they screened the first episode of What If Season 2, which is Captain Carter's very own Winter Soldier story. It's been getting great reviews out there from people who have seen it. Obviously, Steve Rogers is the Winter Soldier here. And he is a mecha Steve Rogers taking on Captain Carter, so that looks good.
Yep.
The trailer also has some glimpses of 1602, which is Neil Gaiman's version of the Marvel Universe. So they're going to have a couple episodes on that. That looks fun as well. But the highlight of the Marvel animated panel is that X-Men 97 is coming back.
Oh, yeah.
X-Men 97 is launching with not just a new series, but it's a direct continuation from the 1997 animated children's show.
Wait.
Yeah.
Like from the later season continuation or the season before that, when they went to the Philippines to do the animation?
All of that is canon. It's continuation from the final season.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's dope. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the season that would have come after that.
All right. Okay. Ballsy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. It's called X-Men 97. The original voice cast is back. The original writing team is back.
Let's go.
Everyone is back. We saw a bit of some of the artwork and trailers. Not trailers. Sketches and like artwork and boards. Stuff like that. The character designs and everything looks exactly the same as it does with X-Men 97, with a few minor improvements. It looks more fluid. It looks more dynamic. Obviously technology has come a long way since then. What do you guys think about the return of X-Men 97 here?
Oh, wow. It's interesting. I mean, it's in line with what Marvel Comics is doing. They had a series of new of the old X-Men, but like redone for today.
Right.
So I guess it makes sense lah. I mean, come on, that's nostalgia bait right there, man.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, the janky animation the last season was kind of endearing lah.
Yep.
So I want to see what they do with it. Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know. I'm not like super excited about it, but I'm definitely, it has piqued my interest.
Outside of the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s, I think X-Men was probably, and the Batman the Animated Series, of course, was the premier, the holy trinity, shall we say, of 90s.
So I mean,
superhero
Batman
cartoons.
was like the quality number one lah. Then the other two.
Batman almost belongs in the league of its own, so it's a bit unfair to compare these shows to Batman. But I mean, X-Men and Spider-Man were right up there as well.
Back in the day.
Obviously, the Mount Rushmore. I think the two Batman shows, Batman Beyond as well, and Spider-Man and X-Men right here. So yeah, like I said, this picks up after the final episode, Graduation Day. Xavier is off planet, Magneto is at the helm. We have no idea where things are going to go, but it sounds fun. Like I said, the original showrunners are back too, along with the original voice cast. So that sounds fun. What about you guys?
Voice cast.
97 voice cast, 97 writers and showrunners.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all back. So
yeah,
I for one, regardless of how this is going to go, am excited just to see it in the same style and continuing the story, right? Because I do feel like outside of Batman, I think a lot of my favorite 90s cartoons ended kind of like strangely at the end of one season, and like it didn't end on a cliffhanger, it just ended. Like Spider-Man is a great example of that. They went into the Madam Web thing and then the series just disappeared. Right? It felt the same way a lot with X-Men. And I'm really, really hoping to see a continuation of that. And I'm not sure if I'm down for updates necessarily if they don't make sense, especially if they're claiming it to be a continuation instead of a reboot. But yeah, definitely hoping to hear that amazing theme song once again. And with everything that has gone down, like even if they're keeping to the same style, seeing that shit in HD, hell yeah, let's bring it on. I'm curious and I'm hopeful. But we'll see how it goes, right? And in general, like just like more mutants means very soon we're gonna have mutants in MCU. So I'm down for that as well.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm down to.
Speaking of the MCU, X-Men 97 is not the biggest news to come out of the Marvel
No.
panel. The main Marvel panel was in Hall H on Saturday, so yesterday our time, and it revealed not just trailers but the upcoming calendar for the rest of Phase 4, Phase 5, and Phase 6. What they're now dubbing the Multiverse Saga, the continuation or the sequel to the Infinity Saga, which was Phase 1, 2, and 3. So there's been some slight shakeups, but for the most part, we know I think 80% of what was coming out, alongside a couple of new surprises here. So it has been revealed that the Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever, will now be the final installment of Phase 4. So Wakanda Forever coming out later this year will be the final part of Phase 4. Obviously, the trailer has shown that Namor is there. Riri Williams' Ironheart was in the trailer as well, so that's quite exciting. It looks like it's a Wakanda versus Atlantis war going on. Looks fun. The third Ant-Man and the Wasp movie called Quantumania will begin Phase 5, according to Kevin
February
Feige.
17th.
On February 17th. Yeah, we know Kang is going to be the villain in that film. They've announced MODOK as a secondary villain for that film as well. Bill Murray is in the movie in an undisclosed role, so we'll see what happens there.
Those were good TV wall.
No. This is the MCU MODOK lah.
Yeah,
I mean, MODOK in TV exists, but it's part of the multiverse.
Oh, okay.
But this is the MCU MODOK, which will be making his debut in Ant-Man and the Quantumania. Yes. After that, on spring 2023, we have Secret Invasion on Disney Plus. It is not a movie; it's a series with Nick Fury and Talos. It's described as a conspiracy thriller where Skrulls have infiltrated Earth at the highest levels. Emilia Clarke and Olivia Colman are in the cast. It looks great. I mean, this sounds like it's going to be a fun little spy thriller. And a big event on the TV scale. Following that, on May 5th, there is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and it has been confirmed that this will be the final iteration of the Guardians. None of the actors and James Gunn are coming back. So this is the swan song for Guardians of the Galaxy. Looking forward to that as well. Summer of 2023, it debuts with Echo, which will be the first show of summer in 2023. Echo of Your City, a spin-off of the Hawkeye show. Maya Lopez is back. Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox are confirmed to be in the show as Kingpin and Daredevil.
Let's go.
They skirted around many fan questions about whether Jessica Jones will be in it. Some of the leaks apparently purport the plot to be Daredevil looking for a missing Jessica Jones. That is the story of the Echo series. Looks to be great. Loki season 2 is also on tap for the summer of 2023. Got no new details on that. On July 28th, also in the summer, is The Marvels, which will be Nia DaCosta's cinematic MCU debut, which will team up Kamala Khan with Carol Danvers. In The Marvels. November 3rd, 2023, we'll have Blade, finally, Mahershala Ali as the half-vampire hunter. Looks great. The fall of 2023 is the Ironheart series on Disney
It's a
Plus.
series. Okay.
It will follow Riri Williams,
Nice.
obviously, who will debut in Wakanda Forever. She's the young engineering student who makes a super iron suit like Iron Man. She will be played by newcomer Dominic Thorne, who was previously in If Beale Street Could Talk. And then in the winter of 2023, we got Agatha, Coven of Chaos.
Oh yeah.
The MVP of WandaVision is here with her own show. Kevin Feige was quite plain in saying that no one expected Agatha to be as to take off as she did. And they're like, fuck it, let's make a show about her. Why not? Spring of 2024 though is in my opinion the biggest thing that came out of the panel. The only new announcement. Daredevil is not just going to be guest starring in Echo. Daredevil is getting his own show.
TV series.
It's called Daredevil Born Again. Charlie Cox reprises his role. Vincent D'Onofrio returns. We don't know what type of Daredevil was in the MCU, or whether the Daredevil Netflix show was in 616, the MCU universe, or whether it was a different Daredevil.
Yeah.
I suppose that will be cleared up in the coming months and years.
Yeah.
May 3rd, 2024, Captain America New World Order, aka Captain America 4, will follow Sam Wilson as his first solo movie. July 26th,
After all that
2024.
time.
After all that time, yeah. They're filming right now,
I know.
So eager to see that.
Yeah.
July 26th, 2024, Phase 5 ends
Yep.
with not an Avengers movie, but a Thunderbolts movie.
Oh yeah.
That will see the villains and anti-heroes from the TV shows and movies team up. This movie adaptation looks to be interesting. I didn't foresee this as the climax to Phase 5,
Yeah.
but we'll see where it goes. Phase 6 kicks off with Fantastic Four on November 8th,
Yeah.
2024. Obviously, after Jim from The Office cameoed in Multiverse of Madness, John Krasinski, this was a gimme. We all expected this to
Well, I thought
happen.
Jim was a FBI agent in WandaVision.
Oh god, I knew that was coming. I knew that was
That's
coming.
true.
Yes.
Hopefully, they get to be on screen together. Though.
Yeah, that'd be freaking awesome.
Right. And Phase 6 culminates with not one but two Avengers movies.
Yeah,
This
man.
looks to be a two-parter, much like Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
The first part is called The Kang Dynasty. The second part is called Secret Wars. And the image for Secret Wars is from Jonathan Hickman's run. So, boy, that was a big one. I don't know how they're going to do this.
Yeah.
I honestly
It does
don't
look
know.
like it does look like a solid plan, though. I mean, what are your highlights? What are your thoughts about Phase 4, 5, and 6 that they've announced?
I mean,
let's begin with you, Adi.
okay, I mean, Phase 4, I think, is quite standard. Like, we already knew what was coming and all that stuff.
But there's only one thing left.
Yeah, exactly. So, no issues there. The trailer was freaking epic.
Yeah.
I mean, that no woman, no cry, and then, my God.
Bob Marley, Kendrick Lamar mashup.
Oh,
Amazing. Yeah.
right. And then that feeling, I mean, even in the trailer, this is not even the movie, the trailer itself, that celebration of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther and all that at the beginning. I can't wait for that. I mean, nostalgia. I mean, I'm just waiting for how they're going to introduce Namor and the Atlanteans, because
Absolutely.
I mean, there's some Aztec Mayan kind of thing going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, that's for Phase 4. I mean, She-Hulk also is in Phase 4, right?
Yes, She-Hulk is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, in August. Yeah, so that's looking forward to all that, definitely. But I think Phase 5 has so much, like what you're saying, like Daredevil, Ironheart, Secret Invasion, Echo.
Yeah.
It's just littered. Like, the entire year is so busy. There's no like break for us.
The Marvels, season 2 of Loki, season the farewell to Guardians of the Galaxy. It looks to be a very stacked year next year,
man. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing they'll
Blade is next year too.
exactly 2023 is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that shit. Ironheart will be in Wakanda forever, right?
Riri will debut there. Yes.
Debut, like, I mean, it won't be like a huge role or whatever, I think, but
Probably not yet.
yeah. I hope her Iron Man suit will be the Gundam inspired suit that she created the first time.
I do hope we get to see that. Yes.
But apart from that, yeah, looking forward to the MCU definitely. The Phase 5. The Phase 6, I mean, it's still quite too far into the future for me to really like look forward for it.
It's 3 years away, lah.
Exactly.
It's not that far,
but
yeah.
still, I want to see how we get through Phase 5 first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and see what are the ideas and what are the storylines that are going to be established in Phase 5 before I can get really excited for Phase 6, lah. Yeah.
Right. What about you, Isa?
Oh, wow. Hadi is absolutely right. We're going to be really busy with just Marvel stuff next year. Stuff I'm looking forward to. Curious about Secret Invasion and how they're going to do that. I think they went the right direction with doing it as a series. Just because like Secret Invasion has so much, right? And also we know that with Secret Invasion, the possibility of bringing on several very big characters from the comics becomes reality, right? If they decide to do that, excited to see Nick Fury back to his antics with Talos. I really, really hope it's as good as I imagine it could be. for that.
Mm.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy, hoping to see kind of like a wrap up for that. I'm glad they're kind of wrapping it up. I think that we do need something new in that space, literally and figuratively speaking.
I'm
For
guessing
sure.
like some Adam Warlock stuff is going to go on, right?
Yeah.
They'll be wrapping up the storyline. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to see where that goes. I want to see if they tie in any more kind of like cosmic related stuff that they brought up in Eternals, maybe.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, curious
Yep.
about that. Just fresh off the Miss Marvel hype, super excited for the Marvels. It's a bit of a wait, but I'm curious how that goes. Super, super excited to see how our young star manages on the big screen.
Yeah, man.
Because she's done really, really well on the small screen, and I want to see, where she goes from there. Loki season 2, we'll see. Blade, excited. Ironheart, one of my favorite kind of like new characters in the comics in recent times, so super excited for that.
Really awesome.
I think Daredevil, I'm super curious how they're gonna do that. Captain America New Order, when I saw the poster for that, right, I was just like, are we gonna do Hydra Cap? Can we do Hydra Cap? Just because New Order kind of like sounds in that direction, but
but
we
like,
probably
Hydra's
never
dead,
will.
right?
Yeah, I know, but still, like the Hydra Cap, like arc was
awesome
so
twist.
good. It was so good.
Yeah.
What I'm really excited about actually is Thunderbolts. Much like you hits, I'm was very surprised for that to be announced.
Thunderbolts would be led by Winter Soldier, right?
I don't
No,
think so.
I mean,
It's agent.
US agent.
Yeah, US agent.
Oh, US agent. Oh, okay. So it won't be, okay. It's not Bucky's Thunderbolts, lah.
Yeah, but I mean, like
No.
the cast is stacked, right? You got Florence Pugh, you got Tim Roth, you got I mean, like Sebastian Stan, and all
so
of that.
Abomination is coming in.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that. I don't know what Olga Kurilenko's Taskmaster is going to do, very honestly, but sure.
Technically, though, it's not really US agents team. It's Julia Louis Dreyfus's team.
Oh, that's true.
It's Veep's team.
It's Veep's team, Selena Meyer's team.
Then where's her Batman? Oh no, she fired him.
I would love to see Gary Walsh in there as well. Tony Hill. But Thunderbolts looks great because it's MCU's first ever anti-hero team.
Yeah.
I assume they're gonna do a slightly more serious version of Suicide Squad. Kind of like that. With Yelena is in there, Taskmaster, Abomination, US Agent, and probably more villains that they'll be setting up in the upcoming shows and movies.
Sure.
So, eager to see how that goes.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. And we're gonna.
I'm fine.
Yeah, the first family coming back to Marvel. Fingers crossed. I mean, like we've seen so many bad Fantastic Four movies at this point in time. Whatever they can give us that isn't that, I'm fine with. But again, all these things are like kind of far off into the future. Right now, I'm just psyched for Wakanda Forever, and I'm curious where we're gonna go. I have a feeling that even what they teased is just a little bit on the surface, especially if we're gonna end Phase 4 on it. So fingers crossed we get everything that they've teased and even more.
Right, a good way to transition from SDCC to our main episode. Our first topic here is Thor: Love and Thunder, which is of course the latest MCU film and the fourth entry in the Thor franchise, directed once again by Taika Waititi. Love and Thunder finds Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced before, a quest for inner peace. He is effectively retired and trying to find himself, but that retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer, Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, who seeks the extinction of the gods of any god in any pantheon in any world. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, Korg, his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who is now the mighty Thor, inexplicably wielding his magical hammer Mjolnir. Together, they embark upon this cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late. Let's begin with you, Isa. What are your overall thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder?
Oh man, I love the costumes. Love the return of the characters. Love Broken Mjolnir is so cool, so cool. All of that is great. But shout out to Christian Bale, who didn't give a shit and just basically acted the hell out of his role in his own movie while everything else was going on. Because like Gore didn't belong in this movie. Gore needed his own movie. and it was that well done. So much so that it completely created this incredible dissonance for me. Seeing Thor and gang kind of like fight Gore. Overall, I had fun. I had fun with it. I think there were a lot of kind of like visual aspects to it that I really kind of enjoyed and was taken by. But it wasn't as funny as I thought it would be coming off the back of Ragnarok. Right, I still think Ragnarok is still more objectively funny for all of that. Just yeah, otherwise I think like much like other movies in this phase, it's been okay, right? Certainly not one of the great Marvel movies that we've had, and not even one of the great Thor movies we've had. So can't say it's very middle in the pack, but overall a fun watch and kind of like a great addition to the lore.
What about you, Hadi?
Agreed. I mean, first of all, you all know. Okay, I mean, no spoilers first. Okay, the movie itself, I feel, I mean, off the back of Ragnarok, we are expecting something of equal or even better kind of like value, I guess.
Yeah.
And to an extent, I think it tried to deliver on that, trying to continue on the Ragnarok tradition. However, I felt this movie was trying to do a lot in one, in a too much maybe at times.
Yeah.
I mean, because they were trying to introduce a whole other side of Marvel that has been kind of introduced in Moon Knight, the whole gods and all that.
Yeah.
But like, it was very hastily done. It didn't feel very. It felt very pushed on instead of a living, breathing kind of part of the universe. Like the whole god thing just felt very weirdly placed. So the ex-Guardians are gods again? I thought they're not gods. Like, I mean, if you remember what Odin said, like back in like Thor 1,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So there was a bit of like this weird, like I think dissonance. Like, yeah, you're right, lah. In terms of like, but then like the cameos were really like great. Like Russell Crowe as Zeus was something that I didn't know that I needed. Just really scene stealing. It's just that the problem was that it wasn't a very long scene.
Yeah.
And then the other, obviously, introducing the gods, going through the adventure, and then I don't know, I just felt it was fun, but it could have been so much better, I felt. That's all.
Yeah.
For me.
Taika Waititi was the wrong director for this particular film.
Weird, right?
His,
Yeah, you're right.
His style is not suited to telling this particular story with two very, very emotional through lines with its two main characters. The God Butcher story is dark, heavy, and dramatic. The Mighty Thor Jane Foster story, if you followed her comic run, is heavy and tragic and very depressing. Taika Waititi gets his own way, gets in his own stories way with his insistence on undercutting everything with jokes. That would have been that would have been fine if the jokes were better. In this case, it leaned very heavily into jokes, and I would say like 75% of the jokes were either mediocre or didn't work at all.
Yeah.
Some of it did work, some of it didn't. I would have liked to see a more dramatic representation of Jane Foster Thor and God Butcher. It was quite middling in my opinion. Before we delve into our ratings, I suppose there's very little spoilers to talk about, but I think one spoiler that I would like to talk about at least, is a very special cameo in the first post credit scene.
Yeah.
Because he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Roy Can. Shout out to Brett Goldstein, aka Ted Lasso's Roy Kent, who appears as Hercules in post credit scene. Probably, I think, the best moment of the film, like by far. And he had nothing to do with the story. What about you, Hadi? Fellow Ted Lasso
Come
watcher?
on, it's Roy fucking Kent. But okay, on another note, I think you guys also know that Hercules is my guy.
Yeah.
Like, I've read all the Hercules comics in Marvel. He's the oldest superhero ever. He has a tragic backstory. He was once part of the Avengers, part of the Guardians. He's a very storied, lived in Marvel character. So
Yep.
them introducing him, it's a bit weird because him and Zeus aren't really like friends.
Yeah.
But in this
yeah.
reiteration, I guess he's like a very loyal son or something.
Mm-hmm.
And also that CGI Roy Kent body. But that's not his real body. He's nowhere that big. He cannot get that off in that amount of time. I mean, like impossible. What do you call it? Dimensions.
Yeah.
It's like it reminded me of the Ryan Reynolds buff guy in Free Man. Free guy.
Yeah, free guy.
Sure.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. So yeah, I'm guessing. I'm wondering. We're gonna see Hercules another like 4 years or something,
Yep.
5 years from now, because I don't see the timeline phase 5 phase anything with Thor.
Yeah.
So 5 years from now, I guess. So wait long.
Yeah, it could happen in phase 6 actually, because there's only 3 titles announced in
So
phase
maybe
6. So
phase 6.
there's a lot of space to happen in between.
Yeah.
Do you think, Hadi, or do you hope that we will get a Hercules standalone movie?
Nah, it's too small a character.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he'll be defeated in Thor 5, and then I think he's going to be a member of Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
Ooh.
sure. That's more likely.
Yeah.
As like, their Thor,
Yeah.
Thunderbolts is Thor.
Yeah, because Hercules does not Hercules, but Ares was in Thunderbolts, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I think the original Avengers team has an analog in Thunderbolts. There's the Captain America analog. There is the Black Widow analog in Yelena. There is Abomination, Taskmaster. So everyone has a one-to-one except for Thor, and I think Hercules could be it.
Oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Ooh, good. Thanks. I like that idea.
All right, fantasy booking here for upcoming Thunderbolts film. So overall, guys, give me your final thoughts and ratings for Thor: Love and Thunder. Let's begin with you, Isa.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 6, right? Like I enjoyed it, but like some parts of it just like there were some seriously unfunny jokes, right? And then on the other hand, you have like gore. I just
shit out this.
Yeah, I fucking loved all of those scenes, especially when it went like completely black and white. And what a ridiculously concise origin story in the co-open, right?
Yeah.
Like so tight. But yeah, everything else was a little draggy, honestly. And I think they didn't do justice to Jane Foster and Lady and Mighty Thor's story.
Thor.
Yeah.
What about you, Hadi?
Definitely okay. Actually, slightly lower at 5.5.
Sure.
Because Mighty Thor could have been given so much more to do.
Yeah.
In fact, if it was made her movie instead of his movie, it would have been maybe a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the tragedy between like Gore and her kind of makes sense. I mean, I know that Thor also very tragic, and like he lost everybody and all that, but we've gone through that quite a few times already. But this Jane Foster dying and all that stuff, and God, losing his daughter and all that stuff, I felt that those two characters should resonate even better. I'm just pissed because that was all we got for Eternity.
Oh my god.
Like Eternity, this once in a lifetime kind of being, this great presence in the Marvel universe, and that was all. Anyway, 5.5 for me lah.
Yeah, he was a cardboard cutout.
Literally.
Wishing well. They did nothing with Tessa Thompson, who was given zero character development here. Natalie Portman, I'm sorry to say, wasted her time here. She shouldn't have come back to the MCU. She should have stuck to her guns and been like, I'm a serious actress. I'm not going to do this shit anymore because they wasted her again. Christian Bale obviously leaks above what this movie called for him to be, so he was quite good. I'm rating this even lower than Hadi. It's 5 out of 10 for me. So it's 5.56.
Yeah, pretty close.
I would have given it a 4 if not for Roy Kent. I know that's not his real name, but Roy Kent saved the film for me. There was Thor: Love and Thunder. Let's move on to something a bit more positive on the TV side on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about this first season of Ms. Marvel. With Ms. Marvel, it's hard to talk about how important Ms. Marvel was as a character to rejuvenating Marvel Comics in the 2000s. When Peter Parker first swung onto Marvel Comics in 1962, right, he kind of changed the game. He changed the world. For the first time, there was this relatable, flawed superhero for teens. a stark difference from all the aspirational gods and heroes who came before him, the billionaires, the Superman, And as Spider-Man exploded in popularity, a weird inverse thing happened. Because he was so popular, he lost his outcast relatability. And for decades, Marvel and other superhero comics in general have been trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle, that Peter Parker lightning in a bottle, to little success. That is until Kamala Khan arrived. She made her debut on the pages of Captain Marvel before getting her own solo series in 2014.
Yeah.
And Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel became the source of much hoopla, specifically for being the first Muslim superhero to headline her own series. But kind of underneath all the right-wing backlash and progressives introducing identity politics to comics, all that weird arguments online, right? There was this wonderful story about an insecure teenage superhero that managed to recapture what made Spider-Man so magical. Kamala Khan was transcendent. She was silly and short-sighted and over-eager and a fangirl who's totally out of her depth. As depicted by writer G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona on the art, she was utterly charming. This combination of her relatable teen life, schoolwork, school crushes, parties, and her rich home life, courtesy of the Muslim upbringing, made the Miss Marvel comics feel like a breath of fresh air. Do you think that the Miss Marvel show managed to translate it to a reasonable degree on the small screen? Let's begin with you, Hadi. What do you think about Miss Marvel, the TV show?
I mean, at first I was a bit confused because the powers have changed, right?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Kinda. I mean, yeah, because it's now. Yeah,
it's not shape-shifting anymore, right?
Yeah, it's not the shape-shifting stuff. It's not from her, but it's still from her DNA though.
Yes.
When as revealed at the end lah. Sorry, spoilers alert.
But yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
However, aside from that, that power thing, Miss Marvel perhaps is one of the best TV shows, Marvel TV shows in a while.
In the MCU era,
Yes.
for sure. In the Disney Plus era, for sure.
Yeah, Disney Plus era. It has a lot of heart. I think it's also because of the enthusiasm and the very young cast. I mean, Iman Vellani really knocks it out of the park for me.
Yeah.
Her innocence to her willingness to, to learn and to grow, right? I mean, comes off really genuine lah. A lot of the scenes were very emotional, very heart-wrenching at times also, and then sometimes, she does like a stupid thing, for example. And you kind of can forgive her for that because you remember that she's a teenager.
Yeah, she's a child.
She's a dumb child, so she's going to do dumb things sometimes,
Yes.
And that's the journey lah. You cannot be a perfect person all of a sudden lah. So all these little missteps and all the little mistakes that she makes in the earlier episodes and all that, I think really led to that growth by the end of the season. Like,
yes, I agree with that child comment. A lot of people shat on Peter Parker for No Way Home, saying it was his fault. It was the adult's fault.
Yes, exactly.
Dr. Stephen Strange is a full adult who let this happen.
Yeah.
Of course he's gonna go for the easy solution. He doesn't know anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And similar to Miss Marvel.
Exactly. So the kind of pitfalls and all that the character experiences at the beginning were very necessary, especially when it came to that epic few last 2 episodes, or last 3 episodes when the whole like partition and all that stuff like that happened at the end. Like all that became so much more earned because of all the mistakes she was making at the beginning. Yeah. So for me, this was such a good succinct series. It wasn't too long, wasn't too short, just nice. I think the 8 episodes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, this 8 episodes told a really beautiful story. It really drove. It really painted the tapestry of Pakistani American way of life very well. I feel. And and the immigrant story, as usual, it can never be told enough. Sometimes I feel.
Yes.
Like some people are sick of it, like lama, another diversity thing, But to me, I feel that this story is important.
Yeah.
And I think that they did such a good job in not blowing, like it's not on your nose, all the time. It's just like a matter of fact kind of thing. This is their life. This is how they live. that kind of thing, like, and beautifully done. I cannot gush about this series more. I love it.
What about you, Isa? What do you think about Miss Marvel?
Oh man, I've been having a lot of discussions about Miss Marvel, right? And with just people around me, and it's kind of a mixed bag, right? But for me personally, it currently ranks as the top thing that they've done for MCU TV, hands down. Much like in the same way that Hawkeye kind of took me by surprise with having this very interesting street level, lower stakes, low ambitions, but like fulfilling all of that to its T.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Marvel has superseded any sort of expectations that I had. Did I go in already having expectations that look, it has big shoes to fill because the comic book series was so important and so seminal at the point in time where it was released. Yeah, I did. Did I expect them to far supersede that? I did not, and I was completely taken by surprise. Is it a perfect TV series? Absolutely not. Right? There's still things that I think could have been better for sure, but what I think surprised me the most, if we were to remove all the superpower things, if we were to remove the fact, the superpowers, the superhero stuff, all the mystical stuff, right? You have a teen drama on the level of Never Have I Ever, right? And that speaks for itself. The cultural specificity in which they go into that, the care and detail and attention that they pay to the everyday life of this teenage girl and her community and her coming of age story, essentially, with the discovery of her powers. So much attention and so much care was placed into that, and that really really shows.
Yep.
And that to me is filling this it's filled this gap, right, in everything that the MCU has come up with recently, whereby, sure, you've been giving us a decade worth of superhero stories, some of them amazing, some of them okay, some of them not so great. But you are finally giving me something different
Mm-hmm.
for once. And that to me is why Miss Marvel stands kind of like, honestly, heads and shoulders above everything else. Like, love WandaVision, love Loki, love Hawkeye. But Miss Marvel feels special, and I hope that it continues to be special that way, despite all the furor about all these people who can't see past their own noses.
Yes. Disney Plus MCU has its pluses and minuses. The plus obviously is there is the QC there. Kevin Feige has quality control, so you don't get stuff like Iron Fist and stuff like that, right? But at the same time, also the QC and the strict continuity doesn't allow it to reach the heights of, say, Agents of Shield season 4, 5,
Sure.
Daredevil season 1, Punisher season 1, and stuff like that. But in the context of the Disney Plus era, Miss Marvel is easily the best show that they've done.
Yeah.
It is delightful. Bisha K. Ali and the director duo of Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falah, who actually did Bad Boys for Life, which me and Hadi actually watched. Great film too. Surely they made this seem like more than a Spider-Man redux.
Yes.
It's this like shot of candy colored joy, and it's a fantastic coming of age comedy, fantastic coming of age drama that happens to occasionally moonlight as a superhero show. As we've already mentioned, particularly newcomer Vellani kind of delivers this star-making turn as the lead, playing this average 16-year-old Pakistani American who's a total fangirl for Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. But even as she's struggling to find a place in her Jersey City school home, and at home and obviously in Pakistan later on, she suddenly gets superpowers and it kickstarts this superhero origin journey. Really love the aesthetic of the show as well. The Scott Pilgrim meets Spider-Verse meets Mitchell's versus the Machines editing aesthetic of pop art visual. I love the story. I love the acting. The details are what makes this special. The great music, Pakistani and Indian music to Riz Ahmed, Sweat Shop Boys. There's the casual discussions of the best SRK films. There are vivid depictions of the partition. To which I think this show did what Watchmen did for the Tulsa 1921 massacre.
Yeah.
It introduced to a mainstream audience something in a real big historical event that most mainstream white people didn't know about, particularly the partition. And that's what Watchmen did for Tulsa a couple of years ago. It has a very accurate portrayal of being a practicing Muslim in a westernized world. their depictions of taking wudu, celebrating Eid, and the difference between main Eid and lesser Eid. A kid being tricked into consuming alcohol, which is straight out of issue 1 of Miss Marvel. And nothing, like I think me and Hadi has discussed this, nothing has kind of angered me more
Oh
in
my
pop culture than watching white people wear shoes into a masjid. Details like that. It has this colorful immersion into not just Pakistani American culture, but Pakistani culture as well, as the show transitions into Karachi in its later half. Such specificity within a universal coming of age superhero tale is what makes Ms. Marvel so beautiful. That said, the only flaw to the show is I wish that there was less superhero elements. I know it's a
I know.
it's a weird argument
But
for
I
a superhero
agree.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wish there were less superhero elements and more of the family drama and Pakistani American elements, and less powers lah. But overall, I think it's a great start for Kamala Khan. Let's give our final thoughts and ratings before we delve into
Sure.
spoilers. What about you, Hadi? What's your final thoughts and ratings?
I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10 for me.
Yep.
Ooh, solid.
Same here. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 as well.
Nice. I'm just slightly below. I'm going to give it 7.5.
Right. So yeah, universally beloved here on this episode of genre. Great ratings overall. We highly encourage you to watch Miss Marvel if you haven't. It's available now on Disney Plus. All episodes are out. It's actually all episodes are out already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let's delve into the spoiler section, which is essentially, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the Captain Marvel thing because we kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yes.
It's how you introduce Miss Marvel into the Captain Marvel cosmic world by doing something like that. But let's talk about the big M.
Oh yeah.
They dropped the word mutants there.
Yeah.
Not only did they drop the word mutants, they played the X-Men theme song over it. So
Yeah.
it's clear what they wanted you to do, and what wanted you to think. Let's begin with you, Hadi. What do you think about this introduction of mutations into Kamala Khan? Do you think it overconvolutes her origin story, or do you think
A
it's
bit,
fine?
right? I mean, slightly overconvoluted, but fine. I'm fine with it. It's just that isn't she inhuman?
Well, yeah. I mean, like Hidzir and I just had this conversation.
But I guess they don't want anything to do with the humans after the tragedy of the Inhumans TV show, lah.
Yeah.
I think Inhumans and mutants are redundant. If you can do mutants, you do mutants. They only did Inhumans because
They didn't have the rights,
to
right?
mutants.
Exactly.
Yep.
So now they have the rights again, I guess.
Yes. In fact, G. Willow Wilson has given several interviews when Miss Marvel came out, the comic book. She said that she originally intended for Kamala to be a mutant, not an Inhuman.
Okay.
The Inhuman was a directive from Marvel higher ups because they didn't want to promote any more mutants
Exactly.
because they didn't have the rights to it.
So fine.
Let's make her a mutant.
Yeah, why not? I guess it also makes it easier, kind of like, it's fine. I'm totally fine with this review.
Okay.
I'm just interested. Like that guy. What's the buddy's name?
Bruno.
Bruno.
Brian, right?
No, Brian.
That's
a good joke. Yeah. Sorry. Bruno.
Yeah.
Bruno's like Amadeus Cho level of intelligence.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like like he's not just a genius at one thing. He's like, yeah,
like
seriously.
Like everything. He's what do you call a Renaissance man?
He's a Renaissance man. He's Peter Parker, like young Peter Parker level, right? Like doing shit that's only supercomputers should be able to do, but he can do it on like whatever. That was a huge kind of like strange thing for me, but sure, right? Everyone needs a guy in a chair. Who cares how he's
a guy,
lah? Yeah.
I mean, it really cuts right into it. That you don't really see it, so it's fine, I guess. One more thing that I wanted to mention is that I mean, this sets up beautifully for whatever mutant related stuff they might have in the future, lah.
Namor is coming up, so
exactly the first mutant.
Yeah. What about you, Isa? What do you think about this mutant review?
First of all, like props to them for dropping it and having such a subtle nuance, 3 or 4 notes of the theme song play in the background, right? Like I had to watch that several times just to make sure I wasn't hearing stuff. Props to them for like, it's a bold move. Sure, it definitely messes with what we canonically know from the comics. But much like Hidzir and I just had this conversation, right? Whereby, like, honestly, I mean, Inhumans are mutant.
Yeah,
in
they
their
are.
own way. You know,
They are.
if anything, I think they're a subset of mutant who just happen. Yeah,
They're
let's
a
not get into
subset
it.
of humans, lah, which
Yeah.
mutants are, lah.
Which exactly, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm not worried about that. I think that going mutants now does not necessarily mean you can't introduce Inhumans later. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think that makes more sense than going Inhumans now and then having to do mutants later as well, right?
Mhm.
Much like it appeared in like comic book canon as well, right? Then we got the mutants first before we got Inhumans. You know, so I think that makes a lot more sense. I'm super curious how they're gonna do about it, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't think, like, with Namor coming in, sure, that's one thing. The discovery of the mutants, just because in Marvel comics they've been such a big part of the comics for so long, and there's so much lore behind that, so many characters as well. I'm not sure how exactly they're gonna kind of like finagle that in, or what the starting or jumping off point is gonna be. It'll be very
Mhm.
interesting if Kamala is the jumping off point or if Namor is the
Yeah.
jumping off point. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure yet. But it definitely opens the door for some very exciting things in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Agreed.
Excited to see Miss Marvel season 2. Hopefully, it gets a renewal, and
Oh
also
yeah.
excited to see Iman Vellani in the Marvels next year. Exactly 1 year from now, actually, on the 28th of July. Next up, let's move on to season 3 of The
Let's
Boys.
go.
On Amazon Prime. The Boys is back for its third season. It's genuinely more outrageous than it's ever been.
Yeah.
This show may have begun as like a superhero satire,
Mhm.
like Watchmen on Viagra and steroids
Yeah.
at the same time. But I think by season 3, it's become a satire not of superheroes but of American culture in general.
Yeah.
It skewers alt-right conspiracy theorists,
Mhm.
gun-toting Second Amendment maniacs, white males rebelling against cancel culture,
Yep.
corporations co-opting social justice messaging for PR points, reality TV competitions, the Black Lives Matter movement, cheesy Lifetime movies,
Sure.
the Snyder Cut,
Sure.
Pizzagate.
Sure.
They even have a Tucker Carlson type Fox News
Yes, they do.
guy. They did a parody of Gal Gadot's Imagine video.
Oh, that's awesome.
And an even more hilarious parody of Kendall Jenner's Pepsi advertisement. This season also brings in Jensen Ackles to play a satire of both Captain America and Winter Soldier. And The Boys manages to weave in all of these smart socio-politically complex themes
Yeah.
about celebrity culture and capitalist culture, all while ramping up the gross out gore factor by like a
Oh
million.
my god.
Within the first 10 minutes
Of the
of the
first
first
episode.
episode of the first
Oh
season,
Jesus.
we see an Ant-Man type hero shrink down to enter his boyfriend's penis,
Mm-hmm.
only to accidentally enlarge and exploit his boyfriend's dick
Where he
and entire
sees.
lower body into bloody chunks. Just 10 minutes, first episode.
Yep.
There's a scene where Homelander gives a monologue comparing himself to Martin Luther King
Yeah.
as he force feeds the Deep a seafood meal made out of his friends.
No, that was so fucking hilarious and scary at the same time.
I haven't even mentioned the goddamn Hero-gasm episode,
That
which
happened.
is the most graphic thing I've seen outside of actual porn. The show is outrageous and it's also perfectly tailored to
Mm-hmm.
mirroring US politics in 2022, which is itself a practically bottomless cesspool, that has reached chilling new depths in recent years. Viewers who have entered, I like how the show started
Yeah.
because, viewers entered 2022 with this kind of post-pandemic high expectations, right? And
Mm-hmm.
similarly, The Boys season 3 begins on this false upswing. They discovered that Stormfront, who was part of the Seven last year, was actually a remnant of the Third Reich.
Yep.
The Boys have helped beat her and her Nazi ass in the season 2 finale. And 1 year later, they settled into this semi-peaceful new normal. Homelander is unhinged, but seemingly under control thanks to Maeve and some damning footage from Flight 37. Huey and Starlight are off to start fresh, soaring in their respective careers as a soup watchdog and a soup leader, respectively. Mother's Milk, Kimiko, Frenchie, and even Butcher are trying to do the same at first. Unfortunately, much like real life, stopping one Nazi is not enough
Yeah.
to save a capitalistic asshole. So The Boys season 3 takes aim at a daunting question. What do the good guys do when the bad guys just keep winning? That's the big theme of season 3,
Yep.
right? Boy, Hadi, I thought I like we've talked about many times before. Season 1 I thought was not great. I was not a fan of season 1. Season 2, genuinely one of the best
Sure.
superhero show seasons I've ever seen.
Agreed.
I think season 3 keeps up that momentum. What about you? What do you think about season 3?
It got dark fast, man.
It got dark really fast.
Yeah, like you thought like, oh, okay, we just defeated a Nazi, everything's fine now,
Yeah.
But then we realized that wait, we have a lot of unsolved stuff from season 2 still. We still have Hate Popper, right?
Yeah.
We still have the whole Homelander situation. I mean, he's kind of tamed but not out.
Yeah, we got Homelander, we got AOC out there.
And then don't forget, we have Vought, who is still making the billions and billions of dollars.
Gus Fring still there. Yeah.
Exactly. Nothing has kind of changed.
Yep.
And yeah, it's interesting how they had to get the band back together, right? And oh my lord, Huey, like I mean, Huey is one of my favorite characters this season.
Sure.
His character arc is great. I mean, he kind of gets unhinged himself, I guess.
Huey is the perfect representation of the insecure white male, right? Yeah. Butcher is not that, Homelander is not that, but Huey is that. And they made him the focus, almost the villain of the season.
Almost, exactly. That's the word, almost. The introduction of Soldier Boy is great. The whole the world building this year was fantastic. I mean, we got another deep dive into hero culture and how outlandish and how out of touch they were.
Hero worship and hero culture is toxic.
Exactly.
The Boys has been all about that since season 1. I think season 3 is its most in your face representation of that. Yeah.
And like, I mean, the life of a hero is so much different than life of a normal person, right? And that comes in combination with herogasm, for example.
Sure.
That this hedonistic lifestyle and all that is actually celebrated by a very large number of heroes. And the comeuppance and all that, we can talk about that later. But what The Boys does beautifully again is give us the that uncertainty of hero worship, that you shouldn't be worshipping these guys because you're just blinding yourself, but it's a beautiful allegory to real life, I guess. And again, beautifully done. I think season 3 outdid season 2.
Agree. Like, there's so many problems season 3 that they're addressing. Where you have, I know she's not AOC but Victoria Newman is pretty much an AOC type progressive politician. And she isn't just a soup who murdered most of Congress last season. She's actually working with and for Vought.
Exactly.
And like Huey finds himself steeped in this dramatic irony. He's the sad boy sidekick who stepped away from Butcher and the vigilante squad to foster legitimate change within a legitimate office, the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs. And he pissed off his found family in the process, but now instead of doing that, he's unknowingly working for this superpowered chick who's kind of maintaining the status quo despite outwardly projecting left-wing politics. To make matters even worse, though, I mean, the biggest bad has always been and will always be Homelander. Soldier Boy is there, sure. Butcher and Huey go sink to new depths this season. Soldier Boy is a big threat and all of that, but Homelander can't stay forever caged, right?
Yeah.
And Anthony Starr's terrifying performance pushes the Boys' big bad closer and closer to the psychological brink. Look, if Anthony Starr doesn't win an Emmy this year, there is no fucking justice in the world.
Dude, that guy.
There is no greater performance in TV or in film than Anthony Starr as Homeland.
Yeah.
It's so good. There is also this sharply written disinformation storyline, complete with Tucker Carlson knockoff that drives Homelander's egomaniacal, overtly Trump-inspired narrative.
Yep.
Anthony Starr has this frenetic eye acting that makes the slow burn threat feel menacing. Yet, there's still hope here and there of stopping Vought and Homelander, including the promise of an experimental 24-hour Compound V that lets you get superpowers for 24 hours, but with horrendous side effects, and rumors of a powerful weapon that killed Vought poster child Soldier Boy back in the 80s. Both of these potential quote-unquote solutions demand that the Boys consider using or at least taking advantage of someone else's superpowers. And superpowers have always been the go-to symbol for evil thus far. So to get what they want, the Boys have to decide what parts of themselves they're willing to lose. Butcher and Huey seem to go all in on this.
Yeah.
And I think one of the major themes besides right-wing politics and disinformation and the co-opting of social justice messaging by corporations and all that, right? It's really about what happens to white males when they become insecure. Homelander gets insecure, Butcher gets insecure, and Huey has always been insecure. How do they handle this? Do they lose themselves? Do they succumb to what we all call toxic masculinity? For a long while, Butcher and Huey do, right? They almost become a secondary villain group to our primary hero group of Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, Starlight, and all that, right?
Yep.
Did you like what they did with Butcher and Huey there, or do you think they took it a bit too far with their?
I think it's perfect. It's all about that, like Homelander is the bad guy, correct?
Yep.
But those who are opposed to him doesn't necessarily mean they are the good guys, Because sometimes it doesn't take a good guy to beat a bad guy. It takes bad guys to beat bad guys.
That was Butcher's whole reasoning, Huey's whole reasoning this season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they took it to that level. They really steeped to that level to try and beat Homelander. And
exactly.
Therefore losing a part of what was good about them.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the season, you were kind of wondering, is Butcher and Huey any better than Homelander or Vought or anything? They're employing the same tactics and all that. What makes The Boys work is unrelenting allegories to the world in which we actually live in, as I've talked about. Season 3 takes fearless swings at everything from socio-economic oppression to whiny white men crying about cancel culture, but it does so with a precision that makes joke after joke, scene after scene, gory kill after gory kill land like a knockout punch. Whether it's a dildo fight in the middle of an episode, or extremely graphic superhero orgy, or the deep fucking an octopus, or straight up calling Lindsey Graham a gooch licker. The Boys doesn't give a fuck about pissing people off. It, in fact, revels in it. And the way the series captures the nature of not just toxic superhero fan culture and toxic masculinity, but the whole destructive soup of online conspiracy theories is scary in its accuracy.
Yep.
It's a better representation of modern. It's almost Black Mirror-ish in that sense.
Yes, it is.
And in ways that can be harder to watch than even the most graphic displays of body horror, because it feels so real. But overall, right, showrunner Eric Kripke, he has this knack for tying in political commentary back to the main story. They're not separate.
Yeah.
They feel organic to the main story, so that its themes intertwine with character development.
Yep.
The Boys pokes fun, but it wisely offers no-need solutions for the big place in the history we currently find ourselves. There is no optimism for the better nature of humanity to shine through. Instead, it's very blunt about the truth of today, and I appreciate that about The Boys. I can't believe I come around so far to The Boys from not liking it to being like legitimately one of my favorite shows on the air in a moment. Any final thoughts about The Boys before you give your rating?
I kind of like that the show kind of went on its own way instead of relying on just what the comics have already established.
Yep.
Because I feel this is a lot more in tune with what's happening in the real world as well, like what you said. But one of you have to give it up to, again, Anthony Starr and Butcher, the rest of the cast as well. I think everybody does really well this season. And this show really should be nominated for something,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a superhero film, so whatever lah.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Starr definitely needs to win an Emmy for something. This is the best acting job I've seen in a long time.
Agreed.
Goddamn. How would you rate it?
I'll definitely give this a 9 out of 10, I feel.
I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 as well.
Solid season. A lot of improvement from season 2.
Very, very high scores. Isa, have you seen any of The Boys so far? I guess not.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the Orville then.
Yes.
How have you caught up with the Orville?
I did. The finale was last week, right?
No, there's still 2 more episodes to go, but we've caught about 8 of 10 episodes.
Because there was an extra long episode last week, the 1 hour plus episode.
Yeah, we'll get to its runtimes in just a bit, but our next topic is the Orville, season 3. The Orville may have begun as a Star Trek spoof. But it's since grown to become better than any of the actual Star Trek series of the past 2 decades.
Now, yes.
And I'm including Strange New Worlds in this.
Yep.
Who would have thought that the creator of Family Guy could have crafted such a thought-provoking, dramatically compelling, and morally complex science fiction show just with a little bit of that Seth MacFarlane trademark toilet humor sprinkled in? A little bit of it.
And it gets lesser and lesser every season.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And after a 3+ year hiatus, the Orville is finally back for season 3. It continues to be a must watch for any Trekkies or sci fi fans in general.
Mm-hmm.
The new season brings in some interesting new characters and a new look and a new home for the sci fi dramedy, which moves from Fox to Hulu. And it looks like that change has led to some serious upgrades for the show. Not only does the VFX look much better, it seems that the writing and directing have matured as
It
well.
has, yeah.
What do you think about season 3, Hadi?
Oh man, I love season 3. I mean, this is
Yep.
the post Kalon invasion,
Yep.
and we come to a new reality lah for the planetary union.
Yeah.
And the Orville itself. I mean, there's new characters introduced to the Orville with the ensign.
Charlie.
Yeah. And then with Topa, who is the son of the Mocklins.
Daughter. But yeah, spoilers. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Purposely said son. Okay, never mind. Anyway. And then obviously how we come to terms lah with what happened, with the Kalons.
Yep.
And though that is explored, I like that they went back to what makes the Orville good, which is the exploration, the negotiations and diplomacy, and we're right back into that. And again, it kind of works. The formula, I think that Seth MacFarlane just stuck to the formula and just improved on it.
Yep.
And this season, I think again, is really really fun. From going to the shadow realms, where they were in this weird reality thing.
Speaking of that, right?
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned it, because every episode of season 3 is a sequel episode to an episode we've seen in previous
Correct.
seasons.
Like correct.
Sequel to the Mockless gender identity episodes.
Yeah.
Sequel to that time the commander became a god in a random world.
Yes.
Sequel to nearly everything.
Yeah.
I love that they never actually explored any strange new worlds in season 3, but they developed upon the strange new worlds they had already explored.
Yes.
Which is something that I think Star Trek doesn't do. They don't follow up.
Yes, and this is the follow-up thing, which is interesting. Like, which it kind of reminds me a bit of Lower Decks, where they are the second contact guys.
Correct, and it's just as important, right? But we never
about
see
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that one of my favorite episodes, the phone episode, the one that the guy got stuck
Time travel.
in the past.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I don't spoil it, but that was a brilliant episode, I feel.
Also a sequel to the hologram episode. Amazing episode as
right?
well. Yeah.
And then I love that we actually explored like an enemy planet with the Krills, and how right-wing politics, populist politics, and all that can derail
a peace treaty,
and all that. All these kind of things are really explored and delved deeply, more so than anything Star Trek has done in the past 10 years.
I would say 20.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like from the beginning, right? It does that. I think it's a season premiere, which is also feature length. It was about 90 minutes as well. There were no discoveries, no strange new worlds. Instead, we got a dark, in-depth dive into trigger warning, trauma, and suicide and grief.
Yeah.
Dealing with the emotional fallout of last season's Kalon invasion.
Exactly.
We're actually talking about an entire episode dealing with the suicidal ideation of a fucking robot.
Yeah.
How great is that? Or how about recurring antagonist Leia, who single-handedly dismantled the historic Crow Union peace treaty by winning the Crow presidency atop of a wave, as you said, of disinformation, of fake news to boost her xenophobic, isolationist, populist message.
And the best part is that both sides are doing it.
Absolutely, yes, both sides were doing it. The episode that you just singled out just now, A Tale of Two Topas, where the Orville once again dove deep into the thorny issue of trans rights and culture clash. When Bottas' kid Topa requests a transition to being back into a female, which is of course a big no-no for the all-male Mocklin species. Does the Orville respect the child's wishes and look after his mental health by disregarding the customs of an ally? Or do they respect a foreign culture's traditions and disregard our own human morality at the cost of a child's well-being? These are the type of ethical conundrums that I loved about Star Trek, and that only the Orville is doing these days. This show tackles the difficult social, political, moral, scientific, and philosophical issues that classic Trek used to tackle, and it does so with such grace and nuance. I can't say enough good things about the show.
Same.
On the issue of runtime that you talked about, we took such umbrage with Stranger Things season 4.
Yeah.
Look at the Orville season 3, where
everything's more than an hour.
Nearly every episode was 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes. 70, 80. The latest episode was over 90 minutes, right?
87 minutes.
87, so close to 90, like 1 hour and a half. Nearly every episode is an hour and a half. A movie. We're getting a movie every week.
Yeah, basically.
The big difference is that the Orville earns every single second of his extended runtime.
Yeah.
There's not a single wasted moment. There's not a beat or a story that feels unnecessary. It all serves to tell the best story possible or the best character arcs possible. Now, this is how you do long runtimes, folks.
Yeah, man.
Man, I love the Orville season 3. It is the epitome of sci-fi television on TV right now, in my opinion.
Agree. Yeah.
Final thoughts on it before your rating, honey?
Again, how many more episodes are left?
2 more.
Oh, nice. Okay. Looking forward to it. I cannot wait to see where this goes, because there's an overarching story that hasn't really been explored, which is the Kalon trap.
It's been explored here and there this season, but yes,
and
they will get to that last week.
Because in the spoiler alert, I guess, in episode 8, spoiler alert again, is that like the Mocklans are now expelled from the Union. Yes. And that's a big deal, because the Mocklans were basically the number one weapons provider.
Yeah, for every other planet.
Exactly. So what happens now? I mean, yes, they stuck to their principles, they stuck to their morals and their ethics, but at what cost, lah? And that cost is coming in terms of the Kalons, lah, because like the Admiral said, the defensive posture is now weakened, lah. And so I can't wait to see what happens and how they figure this out. And I know that it's not going to be just boom boom flash flash. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's going to be some deep philosophical conundrum that they're going to solve.
And when they do get to that boom boom flash flash in the finale, they're going to earn it.
They're going to earn it, exactly. Yeah. But before that, a lot of talking, a lot of diplomacy.
Yeah, but they will exhaust every possible option until the boom boom bang bang.
Use the science, use the technology you have, use the people and rely on each other and that kind of thing,
Yeah, there's the question of Mockless hanging in a balance. There's the question of their new alliance with the all-female society, which is the anti-Mockless, but equally discriminatory. Exactly. I love Bottas saying, like, why would we ever deal with such a bigoted society? And then everybody looks at him.
Like, bro, irony?
Bro, the fuck. Even the time travel ethics is done so much better than Picard season 2. I mean, come on.
Lord, the time travel ethics thing was so heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually not on their side on that one.
Me too.
God damn, yeah. I'm giving this season a 9.5 out of 10. What about you?
Yeah, easily 9.5.
Yeah. I will reserve the right to push it up to a 10 if the final 2 episodes deliver, but because we haven't yet, it's a 9.5 for now. For now, yeah.
We'll revisit it in the next genre lah. We just say the rating lah.
Definitely. On that part though, I kind of have to revise my Star Trek Strange New Worlds rating from an 8 to a 9.
Yes.
No spoilers for the Star Trek Strange New Worlds finale, but damn, that finale, it took guts to invite multiple direct comparisons to the original series.
Yes.
Particularly one of his most iconic episodes ever. And to do it that way, my God, besides the episode being a quasi-sequel to one of the greatest Trek episodes of all time, Balance of Terror, it also informs moments from another season of TOS, from another episode called The Menagerie. In that episode, Spock betrays Captain Kirk and hijacks the Enterprise to help his former Captain Pike. So I was watching that app a long time ago, the original series, and you're kind of thinking, what the fuck, right? How can Spock betray Kirk? To help some guy he used to work with 13 years ago.
But now we know why.
Right? It's so good. Just a tremendous debut season. One of the best first seasons of a Trek show ever, right?
Agreed. For a long time.
I think for any Trek show, there's never been a good season 1.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Every season 1 kind of sucked. Even TNG.
Even TNG?
TNG
even
was
TOS?
only good on season 3 onwards.
Deep Space Nine,
Deep Space Nine season 3 onwards also.
Voyager as well, right?
Yeah, because the first 2 seasons they were just like finding themselves, finding their feet and all that.
This is the only great season 1 we've ever had in Trek.
Hopefully it doesn't revert and it becomes like lousy season 2 and 3s.
Yeah, hopefully lah. But I don't think so lah. Like this writing team seems to know what it's doing.
I also rewatched Discovery and all that with fresh eyes.
Why?
Wanted to see. I don't know lah. I had time lah.
Yeah.
Okay lah. You're right lah. Season 4 is a lot better than season 3 lah.
A lot. I'm not saying that it was good. I'm just saying it was better than season 3.
Yeah.
I will rate season 3 like a 3 out of 10, and season 4 is like a 4.5 or a 5.
5 lah.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's improving. I can give it that at least.
But it's nowhere close to Brave New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds or the Orville.
Brave New Worlds is the book.
Yes. Did you watch the Star Trek finale? How I
yes, I did. It was. Thank you for that. Like, it gave a lot of context.
Yeah, if you don't know, I told Hadi to watch a particular episode of the original series before watching the Strange New Worlds finale because it sort of serves as a quasi sequel to the episode.
Yeah, so then it made so much sense.
Right, yeah. And the thing is, right, like I've heard from people who've only seen the episode and never seen the original Star Trek from the 60s. The episode works on its own. Even.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell it does lah.
But with the added context of, with Kirk.
It just felt more epic.
And the Romulan encounter in the original series. It just felt so much better.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Hadi, for joining this episode. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
All right.
For the Americans.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I can't wait for that.
Me too, man.
Yep. Join us in 3 weeks for that.
Take care, man.
We'll talk to you next time, Hadi.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Now I'm going to jump into Quick Hits, which is a little segment that I talk about some of the TV shows and films that my co-host may not have been able to see. First up, I'm going to be talking about Crimes of the Future, which is David Cronenberg's big comeback film. David Cronenberg, body horror master, connoisseur, is back and he's ready to make you squirm. Crimes of the Future is the auteur's first feature film in 8 years, and it returns him to his body horror roots. It's not like Eastern Promises or like that. This is pure sci-fi body horror. Indeed, there are times when Crimes feels like Cronenberg that is just playing the hits. The title itself is recycled from a film he directed in 1970, while this new feature film has scenes that often play like direct references to previous Cronenberg films. Despite its somewhat recycled material, Cronenberg isn't just going through the motions with Crimes of the Future. Instead, it feels as if he's returning to his roots, to the type of film he's become renowned for, a film where everyone is off kilter, where flesh holds hypnotic sway, where sex and horror are intrinsically intertwined. The story takes place in the near future, where pollution and technological advancement have led human beings to develop something called accelerated evolution syndrome, which is the spontaneous development of new organs and bodily configurations. In this world, bodily modifications are the norm, and pain is virtually a thing of the past. Save, it seems, for a guy called Saul Tenzer, played by Viggo Mortensen, who is a celebrity performance artist whose gimmick is tattooing, then surgically removing those redundant organs that your body produces in elaborate performance art showcases with his creative partner Caprice, played by Leah Seydoux. He lives a life of constant pain, one which no number of biotechnological devices can alleviate. Yet it's this pain and the desire to excise it from his body that makes him the best, a true artist in a world of quote-unquote AG poses.
Yeah.
This reputation leads Saul to his most ambitious show yet, where a grieving father and activist, played by Scott Speedman, urges him to perform his next public autopsy on a dead body, his son's dead body, promising earth-shattering revelations for his audience. It is the understatement of a lifetime to say that David Cronenberg is no stranger to cinematic body horror. The Canadian director practically wrote the book on the genre. His films are dreamlike, meandering ruminations on the blurred lines between human, animal, and technology, testing the limits of what our blood and pus-filled meat cages are capable of and what they might be ready for in the future. And Crimes of the Future is no different. It's a welcome return to the filmmaker's body-bending concerns and evokes his prior meditations on the flesh, although it does scramble a bit to find something new to say
Mhm.
that he hasn't already said before. But there are at least a couple of new angles that keeps Crimes of the Future from feeling like just another Cronenberg body horror flick. Cronenberg seems very interested in exploring Saul as a celebrity, the performance artist I was talking about,
Yeah.
and Viggo Mortensen's raspy, choked performance with his white hair evoking the filmmaker himself. Seems to me that Cronenberg is depicting him as a version of himself,
Mhm.
a reluctant visionary, one flanked by imitators and fans alike, someone who does body horror and other people who do body horror that imitate him. All of whom, all these peers want to flatter him and get something out of it. And in the midst of all his futurism, Cronenberg takes a few key moments to remark on the nature of creativity. A metaphor made apt by Saul and Caprice's dynamic. Is he the artist because he grows the organs inside himself,
Mhm.
or is she the artist because she tattoos and removes them? Does the art come from raw material or the manipulation of that raw material?
Mm.
There are a lot of ideas in here, almost too many to fit into one motion picture. Subplots, like there's one about rigged award shows where Saul is nominated for Best Original Organ. They kind of disappear as quickly as they appear, and the film seems to end more abruptly than it should. There are so many ideas left teasingly incomplete to the point of the film feeling half formed a bit.
Yeah.
But Cronenberg seems content to just give us a glimpse at an existential world where humanity is on the cusp of changing into something other, just kind of glancing momentarily at the numerous ways people might deal with it. While there are times when Cronenberg seems to be indulging in his trademark gross out visuals for the sake of shock, Crimes of the Future is also darkly funny and consistently thoughtful. And for all its moments of extreme horror, it offers legitimate commentary on issues such as body dysmorphia and by extreme measures taken by individuals to in order to carve, sculpt, or tattoo their bodies as evolving canvases of expression. All in all, I will give this a 7 out of 10.
Oh.
Not the best Cronenberg, but
Hmm.
a good return to form for Cronenberg. Like he's playing his greatest hits once again.
Interesting.
Similarly, I'm gonna review Solar Opposites season 3 right now. Out right now on Disney Plus in Singapore or Hulu if you live in America. The aliens or solar opposites who fled Earth after the destruction of their homeworld Schlorp have been hanging out in the suburbs for 3 seasons now, and they've evolved as characters. That said, the show's ruthlessly bawdy and snarky sense of humor remains fully intact. And by the end, evolved doesn't necessarily mean evolved in a positive way, at least from the point of view of mission leader Corvo. At first, in the season, Corvo remains committed to repairing their crashed spaceship, while the rest of the Schlorpians, Terry, Yamulek, Jesse, and the pupa, have grown fond of their lives. They're stuffed full of American values like prioritizing fun and individuality over productivity. They have the pursuit of city hobbies, and they run elaborate scams to get what they want. This disconnect causes an urgent crisis in the season premiere, but it also sets off a big theme of the season in motion, particularly as Corvo decides to give up on his mission to leave Earth and tries to set down roots. And genuinely, this is his quote: I'm going to find a non-sci-fi purpose."
Hmm.
So Corvo just wants to be a regular person. And together, the aliens begin to realize that they're far more functional when they act like a family, which they're not bad at, rather than a specialized team on a sci-fi mission, which they're terrible at. We see this especially in the relationship between Corvo and Terry, who feel like a genuine married couple this season more than ever before, albeit a freakishly competitive one. Teens Yamilek and Jesse also have some nice moments of sibling bonding too. The pupa is mostly left to his own devices, doing scams of his own, but Solar Opposite has great fun imagining his solo adventures while also reminding us that even though he looks like a baby, he is by far the smartest Schlorpian in the group. Not to mention, he's also a stealth doomsday weapon.
Yeah.
Um, I won't be revealing specifics in the review because much of the fun of Solar Opposites comes from its rapid fire, highly surreal escalations that come from a simple starting point. All episodes start very simply, like standing in line or going to vacation or dealing with an annoying neighbor or having a soft spot for a certain cheesy 1990s action movie. But and then it escalates in wild ways that you never expect. In its third season, the show feels as energetic and clever as it ever was, and it explores mundane yet that mundane yet hilarious things.
Mhm.
And its realm of core characters is really really good. There's also a lot of high drama in its prominent subplots. The most prominent subplot is, of course, the latest development within the Wall, which is a population of tiny humans unfortunate enough to cross paths with Yamulek and his shrink ray, who have been shrunk down, and they live inside a terrarium in the alien's bedroom. They've built up this tumultuous society inside this bedroom wall. Season 1 was this dystopian fantasy. Season 2 was a cop drama, and season 3 introduces a new storyline into the wall, which kind of threatens to take over the show. In fact, the wall stories have been better than the main show itself. The show within the show is fantastic. Season 3 also introduces a new subplot, a new storyline involving a group called the Silver Cops, which is a group of intergalactic police officers, which is kind of a mix of the Green Lantern Corps and the Vindicators from Rick and Morty.
Okay.
All in all, I think Justin Roiland and co-creator Mike Mahan have managed to keep Solar Opposites fresh, funny, and emotionally compelling in season 3. Something that their other show, Rick and Morty, has kind of failed to do. So, which is why I'm giving this an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I'm going to quickly run through the rest. Next up, we're going to be talking about Wellington Paranormal, which we've talked about several times here before. If you've not heard about Wellington Paranormal, what is Wellington Paranormal? Well, it's Mulder and Scully, but in a country where nothing happens. At least that's how Taika Waititi described his What We Do in the Shadows spin-off. In fact, this was the first What We Do in the Shadows TV spin-off. It premiered even before the hilarious FX series premiered. So this was the original What We Do in the Shadows spin-off, And across 3 seasons so far, that premise has rung true in inventive and amusing ways. This show has been reviewed consistently well on genre equality, and it continues to be very solid in its 4th and final season. This cops-esque mockumentary, as usual, follows New Zealand's most unflappable yet incompetent police officers as they investigate supernatural crime. Season 4 has them facing off against a Wicker Man-type cult, poltergeists, a bird woman monster, a cursed jacket, and even Satan himself. The finale is a really cool time travel episode where Minogue and O'Leary travel back in time and accidentally create an apocalyptic dystopian future. In that episode, we see a timeline where the paranormal squad never existed, and the world has been overrun by all the demons, monsters, zombies, and ghosts and aliens that they've stopped in previous seasons. So it's a great excuse to bring back old villains for the last episode and show the audience how much these bumbling goofballs have actually achieved over the years. The show is really silly, it's funny, it's deadpan, and reliably amusing. It's not quite as great as FX's What We Do in the Shadows, but Wellington Paranormal is good in its own right. So it's a 7 out of 10 for me, and farewell to Wellington Paranormal. Do you remember me talking about a movie called The Witch Part 1, The Subversion, last year?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it was a Park Hoon-jung sci-fi Korean action film.
Yep.
And The Witch Part 1 was a straight up banger of a superhero origin story. I gave it 8.5 out of 10 3 years ago. I still think it's fucking kick-ass with one of the coolest third act twists I've ever seen. And now the sequel comes along. It's called The Witch 2, the other one. So The Witch Part 1 was essentially introducing you into a world where various competing government factions experiment on kids to create super soldiers.
Yeah.
The Witch Part 2, subtitled The Other One, is set in the same universe, but it's only loosely connected to the first film.
Okay.
The sequel follows a brand new superpowered girl and a brand new cast. So this new superpowered girl is called Cynthia. She escapes from a different government facility, and it's a much more complex and convoluted story than the first film, with way more characters on the board. I think the big negative of the second film is that the writing does a poor job of establishing its gigantic cast of nefarious government agents, shady scientists, the new superpowered kids, and the loved ones of the new superpowered kids. It lacks the focused precision of the first film. On the plus side, the bloodshed, gore, the action sequences, and the insane third act twist is all still present there, all aided by the technological advancements of the last few years. So the film looks a lot better now. The VFX are a lot better. There's also a post-credits stinger that introduces the main goal from The Witch Part 1 back into the story. So I'm assuming there will be a Witch Part 3 with the goal from Part 1 and Part 2 teaming up. So while Part 2 may be even bloodier and wilder and more visually impressive than the 2018 film, it kind of suffers from being the middle installment of a trilogy.
I see. Yeah.
It's a bit less impactful, a bit less coherent because it's a world-building bridge to Part 3. Not a bad film. I'm just saying it's not as good as Part 1. So it's only a 6.5 out of 10 for me.
Oh, okay.
Last couple of things I'm going to review very quickly. Minions: The Rise of Gru is man. What do I say about this? It, the Rise of Gru is more of a Minion compilation than a Gru prequel. It kind of wastes its fun ideas and comedic setups in favor of disconnected slapstick gags, which may delight anyone wearing diapers, but will end up as a chore to anyone forced to sit through it.
Okay.
I admit it's colorful, it's madcap, it's zany, and it may not be suitable for all audiences, but it will definitely delight the one that is made for it. Its target demographic will love it.
Yeah.
That's fine for now, but if this franchise wants to survive, the next entry will have to take on a much tougher mission. It has to stay silly, but it has to get a lot smarter.
Yeah.
This notion of the supervillain anti-hero and the gibberish spouting minions who serve him remains an awfully thin premise to hang a film on, much less 5 films on them. And the franchise is running on fumes. So yeah, a 4 out of 10 for me.
Oof.
Finally, I'm talking about Baymax, which is Big Hero 6's second animated spin-off series. It comes to you in the form of Baymax. It's a gentle, jovial run of 6 mini episodes that's designed to comfort and delight. Every episode is around 9 minutes each. So these short adventures are very breezy. They feature the lovable, inflatable Dr. Bot Baymax patrolling the bustling San Francisco neighborhood in search of those in need of medical and emotional assistance. It's light, rewarding content for those looking for a brief reprieve. Baymax is like he's like a reverse Terminator. He is relentless in his mission to help others. The Terminator is chasing to kill you. He's chasing you to help you, and much of the humor here comes in the form of his patient's reluctance to get a checkup. Like we always have a reluctance to check ourselves. Whether is it going to a dentist or going to a doctor. Our own stubbornness as humans to practice self-care, or even our fear to face a diagnosis, collides with Baymax's programming to be both kind and logical. So more than a few of these chapters involves a chase scenario where the episode's patient literally scrambles to avoid Baymax's dopey determined care. The series not only reinforces the importance of community, but also the idea of people needing emotional support and how often emotional support is related to physical health. A very breezy and sweet series, 9 episodes per episode, 9 minutes per episode, 7 out of 10 for me. Let's move on to your reviews to end the episode. Let's kick it off with something that premiered on Netflix recently, a film called The Sea Beast. What is it about, and what do you think about it?
Well, The Sea Beast, brought to you, aptly enough, by Chris Williams, who directed Big Hero 6, which is the main movie that Baymax is from. Recently debuted in theaters as well as on Netflix. As The Sea Beast follows a fictional world where for hundreds of years these gargantuan sea monsters have surfaced and wreaked havoc against mankind. In response to that, many sailors have taken up arms and venture outwards on their ships to hunt these beasts. The most famous of which, and the kind of center focus of this movie, is the crew of the Inevitable, led by a legendary Captain Crow, his first mate Sarah Sharp, and his adopted son Jacob Holland, played by Carl Urban. Essentially, what goes on from there is that they have a small child who stows away and gets sucked up into all the adventures as the crew of the Inevitable hunt a legendary sea monster called the Red Bluster, almost in a very Moby Dick esque sort of way. During this, shenanigans ensue, and so does the drama. And Jacob, as well as Maisie Brumble, who is the child that I mentioned, ends up discovering interesting things about the sea beasts and the world that they live in, and perhaps all the stories that have been told to them since they were children. There's more to that than it appears. I really enjoyed this film. There are moments in time where there's very strong How to Train Your Dragon vibes. Particularly, I think How to Train Your Dragon 3, right? Where there's like a ton of dragons and stuff like that. The Sea Beast really feels like that. Overall, it's a very well told story about found family, exploration, and discovery. If you loved How to Train Your Dragon, this is essentially the same story, but on the sea and with giant aquatic creatures instead. But what I have to say is the visuals are absolutely stunning. I think that
The
was what caught
animation,
me.
yeah.
I put it on, yeah, late one night, and I was just like, oh my god. Some of the underwater scenes are absolutely breathtaking. It is epic in scale and size. I have not seen sea battles in animation as good as what I've seen in the sea beast so far. And I think
Mm.
it's worth watching just for those scenes alone, right? Like honestly, this entire
Yep.
movie has packs more great underwater scenes than the entirety of Aquaman or Aquaman 2,
Right, yeah.
for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So highly recommend a watch. It's kind of easy breezy. It's a short. I think it's just under 2 hours, if I'm
Mm.
not mistaken. But
Okay.
for anybody who's looking for kind of like a wholesome animated binge, this is another solid outing from Chris Williams as well.
Definitely. Oh, okay. Good review. How would you rate it again?
I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Like a solid
7 out
any
of 10.
night of
Oh,
the week. If you have kids and stuff like that, like this will definitely be up your alley. I am going to move on
okay.
to
Yep.
my what you've tasked me with, which is the
Yeah.
incredible chore of watching the Resident Evil
The
TV series.
the live action Resident Evil
Also,
TV series on Netflix right now.
yes, yes. Oh man,
Yep. So
where do I
what do you
even
think about it?
begin? So,
Yeah.
Uh, for those of you that are not in the know, right? Essentially, the series is spread out over two timelines, right? You have present day 2022 and 2036, 14 years into the future. Um,
Mm.
in the past plot line, we follow the struggles of two young teen fraternal twins, Billy and Jade,
Yep.
whose father is basically works for Umbrella Co, right? And then we jump between that and 14 years into the future, where basically everything that happens in Resident Evil has happened, right? Zombies roam the earth, mutants, all of that. And Umbrella Corporation is now the most powerful corporation in the world with a giant international manhunt for Jade herself. In the interim, you kind of find out how things got they were. We jump to and fro between Jay trying to survive in 2036 and what her life is like as a tween in 2022.
Yep.
Man, I oof. So I gave this my best shot, guys. I only made it
Okay.
for 4 episodes, and that was the best
Okay.
I could do because this is a
Yeah.
steaming pile of meh. It really,
Yeah.
really is. I think just um trying to reset the entire Resident Evil kind of franchise to like a modern day or our modern day setting here in 2022 was painful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely painful to watch,
Mm.
right? To hear Umbrella Corporation kind of like mentioned in the same breath as, Facebook or Google or Apple and all of those jazz things, like it felt incredibly forced and extremely extremely uncomfortable for some reason, right? Like it didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
natural in the least bit. Like I think a lot of work needed to be done to establish like Umbrella Corporation or New Raccoon City, which is where much of this takes place, as
Yep.
something that is realistically, within the world that we live in.
Right.
The high school teen drama that takes place as part of the 2022 timeline is
Mm-hmm.
abysmal. It is
Yeah.
not at all believable. It is not at all enjoyable, right? And it just serves as a very poor veneer for what the plot needs to get to, which is very, very sad. All the way back into the future, when we jump 14 years, not enough zombies, not enough action. I will say some of the CGI is pretty solid. But outside
Okay.
of that, I think the only saving grace, and even then that was not enough, is the fact that Lance Reddick is phenomenal in this show.
Yep.
Once again,
Yep.
I think he was in an entire league of his own. Lance Reddick of
Mm-hmm.
both The Wire and Fringe fame,
Yeah.
basically plays like 5 or 6 characters in this show, and he
Yeah.
aces all of them. But even then, it's not enough, right? An outstanding performance from Lance Reddick was not enough to carry these very, very poor 8 episodes of a valiant, if somewhat ill-intentioned um
Mm.
attempt at I don't know, they just want to give it another shot, right? Like I've said before, honestly, first Resident Evil movie, put Mila Jovovich in a red dress, give me incredible kind of like visuals and great CGI for its time, right? And
Mm.
that's all it really needs to be. To try and copy or expand or adapt from the incredibly complex and convoluted lore of the games itself to give us a media a piece of media like this requires so much more work and so much more care and so much more thought, because the lore in the video games isn't great in the first place, you know. And
Yep.
this is just a very, very poor attempt. I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 10, and only because Lance Reddick has some amazing scenes in the 4
Mm.
episodes that I caught. Yeah.
Yeah, Lance Reddick needs to contact his agent and
Yeah.
get him to contact David Simon, put him in his next show or something.
Yeah.
Uh, David Simon likes to reuse his actors. I'm sure he has a soft spot for Lance Reddick still. Get your career back on track, Lance Reddick.
Yeah, man.
He kind of went into this whole like sci-fi niche for himself with Lost and Fringe and all that. But
Yep.
get back to David Simon, lah. Come on. Like I'm tired of watching this amazing actor kind of be wasted.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyways, to cap off this episode will be a small portion, what I call quick hits classics. This time I'm going to delve into what I've always privately considered to be my favorite anime film of all time. It is
Mm.
Wolf Children. Mamoru Hosoda's Wolf Children is my number one anime of all time film. That is. Over the years, stuff like Paprika, Your Name, Grave for the Fireflies, A Silent Voice, Princess Mononoke have all competed for that spot over the years, I think. But in the end, I've always settled on Wolf Children as my number one.
Yeah.
It's been a decade, but I finally rewatched this masterpiece a couple of months ago, and I'm more assured than ever of that pick. If you've never seen this gorgeous and gentle fairy tale, you should do so immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It follows a sweet girl named Hannah who meets and falls in love with a wolf man in college. She soon gets pregnant and is forced to raise their two children alone after he unexpectedly dies. What begins as a quiet, lycanthropic love story quickly transforms into an amazing tale of the struggle and perseverance of a single mother. In order to protect her children's half wolf natures from prying eyes, Hannah moves the family to the countryside, and it becomes this beautiful tale about the quiet joys and endless exhaustion of parenthood. Not only does Hannah have to raise kids with wilder instincts than most, she also has to protect the secret. She has to make ends meet by learning farming from scratch. And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, this is the one enemy that doesn't hand wave away the back-breaking labor of working the land with a montage.
Mm.
Much of the film's middle is dedicated to Hannah learning the process of farming through her trial and error. Her life is blood, sweat, and tears, but it all feels worth it because of her kids. This is the rare anime made for parents instead of children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then as the years pass, the third act transforms again, and then it becomes an adolescent coming of age fantasy as the two kids grow up in different directions and pursue separate paths. The wild and sturdy daughter who is at home in nature is surprisingly the one who becomes invested in becoming a full-time human once she starts school and begins forming a social life with friends and crushes and stuff. Meanwhile, the sickly son, who prefers the city to the countryside, starts to embrace his wolf side. In the
Mm.
end, despite Hannah's reservations about the dangers of either path, she comes to terms with letting her children choose their own way, something that every parent has to go through. Wolf Children is a beautiful, bittersweet, unhurried, downright painterly film. It's
Mm-hmm.
everything I love about anime storytelling. It was a 10 out of 10 for me 10 years ago. It's still a 10 out of 10 for me now. Have you seen Wolf Children, Isa?
Yes, I actually rewatched Wolf Children like 2 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic. I was just going through some like all the old anime stuff that I had, and I came across Wolf Children and I did watch it. It is
Sure.
incredible, and I mean, I'll be remiss that I haven't actually mentioned it until you have this time around. I highly, highly recommend it. I think it's one of those rare animes that have gotten lost because animes have become so huge and so popular now that
Mm.
the form of storytelling that maybe has come back with films like Your Name and Silent Voice, uh, has kind of disappeared for a while, buried underneath all the shonen stuff, that we've
Yep.
been getting for so
Yep.
many
Yep. Yep.
years. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful film, very incredibly memorable, and something that,
Mm.
much like Grave of the Fireflies, will stick with you for a very, very long time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I especially love that it was made for parents. It's a film about parenthood.
Yeah.
It's not about. I mean, yeah, it's to an extent it's about the children, lah, but it's mostly about the endless exhaustion of raising kids.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. Go give this a watch if you haven't. So yeah, that wraps it up for this episode of Genre Equality. We'll be back. We'll take a bit of a hiatus, but we'll be back next month to talk about the Americans on Behold, as
Hmm.
well as Genre Equality 57. Lots of stuff to talk about next month as well, including something highly anticipated, the live action adaptation of The Sandman is out on Netflix.
Yes.
Uh, th- yeah, I mean, that looks to be probably the most hyped title out next month. We'll also be talking about the final season, not the final season, the third season of
Yep.
For All Mankind. Really happy to talk about that one as well. I think me and Hadi, we it's the show we talk about most over text, so you get to check that out too.
Yeah.
Paper Goals will be getting a live action adaptation soon on Amazon Prime. It technically debuts this month, but this episode is recorded before that, so I'm going to push it to next month. I'm
Hmm.
going to be talking about Tuca and Bertie. I'm going to be talking about the Predator prequel, Prey. Nope will be out next month as well. Jordan Peele's latest sci-fi film.
Yep.
And I'm gonna begrudgingly talk about Westworld and uh, Jamie Foxx's vampire movie called Day Shift and stuff like that. I've assigned Isa Fong to Tekken Bloodline.
Yeah.
Ish,
We'll
I don't know
see.
how that's gonna turn out.
We'll
It's
see.
it's
We'll
an
see.
anime though. It looks fun.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna catch up on the Star Trek animated shows that I've not been reviewing over the past year. So
Hmm.
if you wanna hear my thoughts about Lower Decks and Prodigy, this next episode is the time to do it. What are you most looking forward to?
Oh man. I think definitely Sandman for sure. Right.
Mm,
That and Nope. I think these two will be the big ones for me next month.
right.
Because like love the Sandman books. I don't know how many times I've read and reread everything.
Mm-hmm.
Super interested in how they're gonna bring that to life. I mean, Gaiman is fully on board. But that's not saying much necessarily, given how
Yeah.
American Gods went for season
Yep.
two. But
Yep.
yeah, stunning stuff, amazing cast. I love what they did with the audiobooks. So I'm super super hyped for this. Hopefully, they put good use, put Netflix money to good use. So we'll see how that
Mm,
goes.
I 100% agree. Yeah. Till next time then. This has been Hidzir.
Isa,
Goodbye, guys.
ciao.